Welcome back. All right, so last year I did a video talking about who was potentially going to be in the running for the Calder Trophy for 2024, and we knew that Connor Bedard was very likely to be the Calder Trophy winner if he played anywhere near what the expectations were, and he did that. Connor Bedard was excellent his first year. Yes, he had a bad plus minus. Have you seen his line mates last season? So Connor Bedard moves into year two, but it means a fresh crop of Calder potentials. And I say that because we're well out from the start of the season, right? So I'll definitely be doing other videos on this as the season gets rolling and all that. Because rookies are so unpredictable. We talk about goalies being unpredictable from one year to the next, which is true, but rookies as well. Now, there's a good chance that somebody wearing a San Jose jersey ends up winning the Calder. So looking at the odds are fun to look at, again, this time of year. Macklin Celebrini is given number 2 odds to win the Calder Trophy, right behind Matvei Michkov. So if you're a Flyers fan, there's good reason to be excited this year. Now, Celebrini, before being drafted first overall, played for Boston University, and Boston shows up a few times on the board here. 38 games, 32 goals, 32 assists, 64 points. And what was remarkable with Celebrini is how easily he made that transition to NCAA hockey at a very young age, and that is unusual to see somebody go into NCAA hockey and just play so well so quickly. So Celebrini is expected to make the San Jose Sharks squad and probably be pretty productive. One thing that might hold him back in terms of Calder consideration might be if he doesn't have line mates that can produce. Now, one reason you bring in a guy like Tyler Toffoli as a scorer for San Jose is because you want to help get Celebrini's numbers up and you have somebody playing with them that can play the game. It's important to have those mentors in place for your young players, which also includes Will Smith, who's number 5 in the odds to win the Calder Trophy for next year. He played out of Boston College. So Boston University, Boston College. It's a difference there. 41 games, 25 goals, 46 assists, 71 points. Keeping in mind that Will Smith, a year further out from his draft than Macklin Celebrini is. And so being older, having a few more points. Will Smith, an excellent talent. Both of them should make the San Jose roster. And then the question becomes, how much ice time will they get right away? Are they going to be brought along slowly like Anaheim did with Leo Carlsson, or are they going to be thrown right into the fire? Which brings us to Yaroslav Askarov. So he gets added by San Jose from Nashville, which means there is that opportunity for him, right? He's 8th in terms of the favorites for the Calder, but he's not going to win games in San Jose as he would have in Nashville. One thing that we have to keep in mind with goaltenders is very often they're graded by wins, by save percentage, goals against average, which can be negatively impacted by the team in front of them, right? So Askarov this past season playing for Milwaukee in the AHL, 30-13-1 record, 911 save percentage, 6 shutouts. At the NHL level, he had 1 victory for Nashville and a 943 save percentage. So Askarov really has nothing left to prove in the AHL, but I still think Blackwood should probably get the lion's share of starts there. So because again, I think San Jose, while they've improved on paper, they're not going to be a lot better than last year. They'll be better. They should win more than 20 games, but I think it's going to take a while. The exciting thing, of course, for Sharks fans is the fact that we're talking about young players coming into their lineup, something the Sharks fans have been screaming for since it's got to be 2018 or 2019 when these calls started of, okay, they're going to need to figure out their future here. And that's even in that season where in 2019 they went all the way to the conference final. I remember it being a talking point then that San Jose was going to have to restock their coffers of young players. Well, now they have. So San Jose is in good shape going forward when it comes to young players. Now for the Flyers, Matvei Michkov, again, first in the overall expectations here. Played for Sochi in the KHL, 47 games, 19 goals, 22 assists, 41 points. And I remember the prospect lists and all of the scouting reports and just how beaming they were about Michkov. Remember, one of the reasons he got drafted by Philadelphia not earlier was the expectation was he would not be coming over to the NHL for a long time. Which NHL GMs don't seem to learn their lesson with this. We've seen them, deciding, well, we're not going to draft players from, and it goes back to the Soviet Union in the 80s. Teams drafting players out of the Soviet Union in the 80s with this expectation of them never coming over and playing, and then a lot of them did. So GMs that decide they're going to, go ahead and take that risk very often are rewarded. Kuznetsov playing in Washington, he dropped in his draft year in part because teams decided, well, he's not going to come over and play right away, so we want the guy who's more likely to play right away or within a year. And so, not thinking that long-term can be something that trips up general managers at the draft, Michkov could prove to be quite the steal from that draft. And he should have good line mates in Philadelphia, so it could go pretty darn well. Dallas has two, and I am excited about both players. First off, Logan Stankoven, with 24 games played, doesn't quite reach that threshold to leave status as a Calder. Potential this year. He had 6 goals and 8 assists, 14 points in those 24 games with Dallas. He's number 4 in terms of favorites for the Calder this year. And honestly, he just fit in right away. There was no transition period where it was like, well, he looks kind of iffy defensively, but at least the offense there. No, he's good at both ends of the ice. His compete level's through the roof, and I'm really excited to see what he does with Dallas. In fact, if I was picking somebody, I think Stankoven has an excellent chance because he played those games for Dallas. He played in the playoffs as well. I think he has an advantage on guys who are just joining the National Hockey League this season. Maverick Bourque is 9th in terms of the overall vote. I'm kind of surprised Bourque's in the top 10, but playing in Texas, so AHL level this past season, he looked good. 71 games, 26 goals, 51 assists, 77 points. One thing that for me hurts Bourque's stock in this area is he's probably going to play bottom 6 minutes. I don't think he ends up in the top 6. So we'll see where Dallas puts him. Obviously, during the season, a lot of things can happen. You can have injuries. Bourque then could get moved up the lineup in the event that takes place. But I don't see him as having necessarily the same ceiling as Stankoven, and he doesn't have the same advantage either. He did get into a game during the regular season for Dallas. I think he played a game in the playoffs as well. I know they had him called up. But Bourque, I think it might take a little bit longer for him to get to that top 6 time with the Dallas Stars. Now, Montreal fans are excited about Lane Hutson, and I'm not going to say they shouldn't be because they absolutely should be. Boston University graduate, 38 games, 15 goals, 34 assists, 49 points for the guy who's 7th in terms of Calder favorites right now. Playing with Montreal, he had 2 assists in the 2 games he played after being called up. And excitement's high in Montreal. Plus, he has an opportunity as an offensively minded defenseman who could score some points this year to play on a Montreal blue line that needs that. They need that puck-moving, point-producing defenseman. Matheson's still there, yes, but Hutson obviously is going to take that mantle from him, and maybe it happens this season, right? Be interesting to see what Marty St. Louis, being the coach, does for Lane Hutson's totals as well. St. Louis is pretty good at getting offense out of those players, and Hutson has a really good offensive ceiling. Now, number 3 in terms of the favorites is Cutter Gauthier. As you can see, I just kind of put them on the board, and they're not in a specific order. But Cutter Gauthier out of Boston College, he did get into 1 game for the Ducks. 41 games for Boston College, 38 goals, 27 assists, 65 points. With the trade from Philadelphia, it'll be exciting to see how he's received should he play the Anaheim game in Philadelphia. But with Cutter Gauthier, is he going to play all the games? Will they maybe load management his season the way they did Leo Carlson's last year? I don't know that they will, but maybe, right? Maybe the Ducks will give Gauthier nights off here and there, which could be good for his rookie season, but it could hurt his status as a potential Calder Trophy winner. But he has the offensive skill. We know he can score goals. Should be fascinating to see how things work in Anaheim since they desperately need goals. Something that has really not been there for them for years now. So if Gauthier can do that, he will get every opportunity to play as many minutes as he wants. Nikolai Kovalenko. Kovalenko's an interesting one. Playing for Torpedo in the KHL this past season, 42 games, 11 goals, 24 assists, 35 points. And I say he's an interesting one because Kovalenko, on some of the lists I've seen, top 6. They figure he's going to jump right into the top 6 for the Colorado Avalanche. If he does, he's going to score some points. Now, he's not in the top 10 for favorites to win the Calder, but if you're scoring points in Colorado, you're going to get noticed. And if you have that finish, if you're able to get a lot of assists and things of that nature, depending on who he's playing with, and right now it looks like he'd start the season with Mittelstadt, and then does Landeskog start the season or not on their roster, which could affect his ice time too, right? If Nichushkin and Landeskog come back into the lineup, it could potentially bump Kovalenko's spot down. So Kovalenko may be motivated to have a really strong October to try to make sure that he's not dropped out of the top 6, that they decide to drop somebody else out of the top 6 should he end up being on the second line to start the season. I say second line because I don't think he'd end up on the top line unless they decide to break that top line up, which might sound crazy, but, Coach Bednar has different ways of doing things at times, and you just never know. Dustin Wolf is 6th in terms of the odds, and yet he played 1 game in 2022-2023 and 17 in the NHL this past season, so I'm kind of surprised he's still eligible, because I thought if you play more than 6 games in one of 2 seasons, so if you play, is it 6 games or 8 games? Anyways, maybe they've changed it and I'm old and I missed it. But playing for the Wranglers at the AHL level, Wolf was 20, 12, and 3, 922 save percentage, 4 shutouts. He's too good for the AHL at this point. In the NHL, he was 7-7-1 with an 893 save percentage. He had some rough nights here and there, but he didn't look out of place. And so Wolf, with the exit of Markstrom, he's going to get into a bunch of games. He's 6th on the list for Calder favorites, but what could hold him down is the fact that Calgary is expected to be near the bottom of the standings. Calgary's not expected to have a great defense in front of him, so there's the potential that Wolf's numbers suffer behind that defense. Similar line, as I mentioned, with Askarov here in San Jose, and so I don't think that we're going to see him necessarily win the trophy unless Calgary overachieves and his numbers end up being better because the team in front of him is better than expected. Shane Wright in Seattle. He was on the board last year too. So in Coachella Valley, 59 games, 22 goals, 25 assists, 47 points. And then at the NHL level with Seattle, he played 8 games, 4 goals, 1 assist, 5 points. And I think the only reason they sent him back down was to make sure they didn't burn a year off of his contract. But Shane Wright, again, from what I've seen, still listed as a rookie coming into this season. And so I think he's got a good chance because he's had 2 years of experience at the AHL, the NHL level. He's moved around a lot. This season, he should be in Seattle full time. The question again becomes one of how much ice time is he going to get? Will he play 20 minutes a night in the event of an injury to, say, a guy like Benier or something like that? Or is he going to play 12 to 13 minutes a night, which makes it difficult to get that production? Wright not listed in the top 10 rookies, and I get it. Artur Shilov's in Vancouver. So with the news that Demko probably won't be ready for training camp, but definitely they're pretty sure he's going to be ready for the regular season. And I swear, every time that we hear these assurances that, hey, he's going to be just fine, I get more nervous. If somebody every 10 minutes goes, hey, listen, I just want you to know I'm still okay, you're going to start to think they're not by about the 6th or 7th time they tell you that. And that feels like the vibe I'm getting from the Vancouver Canucks about Demko. That, oh, it'll be fine. He'll be back for the start of the regular season. I don't know that he will. So in the event that he's not, Shilovs could get those starts. Vancouver's expected to be a playoff team. That could get Shilovs some wins, and that's going to get him some attention when it comes to Calder voting, right? In Abbotsford, he was 16-11-6 this past season, 907 save percentage. He did have 4 shutouts. In Vancouver, he was 3-0-1. His save percentage, not fantastic at 881, but he won. He won the games he played for the most part, and did he look out of place? No. So Shilovs is one to keep an eye on if you're, picking fantasy, and if you think the Canucks are going to be a playoff team. He could end up getting a lot more games than what people think right now. Because again, the amount of times that I've seen, there's concern with the rehab for Demko, but they still think he's going to be ready in time. But are you sure? And then you got Jesper Wallstedt. Wallstedt, of course, might be delayed this year because Fleury decided to come back and play another year for Minnesota. You've still got Gustafsson there too. But are we going to see a move in Minnesota when it comes to the goaltending? So in Iowa, Wallstedt was 22-19-4, 910 save percentage, 2 shutouts. Playing in Minnesota, he was 2-1 with an 897 save percentage. He did have his first NHL shutout this past season, and he looked good. So Wallstedt's right there. We'll see what happens in training camp. If he outplays both Gustafsson and Fleury, that could make things interesting. But the one question I have is, nobody had Brock Faber on their list of a favorite to necessarily win the Calder, and he was right there with Bedard in terms of the voting. He finishes second behind Bedard. So who's going to be this year's Brock Faber? Which of the rookies, and I could have listed tons of rookies for this board, which rookie that's not on the board do you think is going to take a run at the Calder Trophy this year? Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on that. Hit like and subscribe if you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.